How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Blue Shifting, and welcome to a little friend of mine. Say hello. This is Chloe. She's one of the newer members of my family. She's a gorgeous ball python. I love ball pythons. Like, I had Maya. She's the purple passion ball python. Chloe was the second one. She was picked up by my wife and named by her as well. She is an albino, and we believe she's pastel, which means that her yellow colorings are brighter, and so you get this very bright yellow snake with white, because albinism takes away all the brown pigments. And then if you can see, she's got these beautiful focus. She's got beautiful pink eyes. So she's just gorgeous, and she'll be here with me today as we do the Patroncast. Welcome everyone to the big public Patroncast. She'll just kind of be hanging out. I'll have her wrap around. There's some places for her to hide in my hood, and she also likes to coil around my neck because it's warm. But she's also very adventurous, and so there's a good chance she's going to try and explore my desk, so we might not see her very long, but you know, that's how it is. Welcome everybody. I hope you're having a good day. I'm filming this on Christmas. It's been a nice roundup. It's been a good time, and decided to get this done, especially because this is coming out on Tuesday. Since we don't have our normal scheduled thing for Tuesday, we have about a week to figure out what we're going to be doing with the time on Tuesdays, and that's what we're ultimately talking about. So whilst I got the cute snake here to kind of catch your attention, mostly I need to keep your eyes on here for the fact that we're going to be doing a few polls for the channel. Now, what happens on this, if you're new to the channel, simply put, I like letting a little democracy into this oligarchy that I've got going on the channel wise. Obviously, I cultivate the list and I choose ultimately what I want to play. I love visual novels. I'm always going to be doing a lot of them, but I've also been able to, because of the wonderful support of the patrons, been able to start incorporating more content during the week, and I decided to start deviating into other kinds of games that are story driven. We just started Trails in the Sky, which is awesome. I did the Killy the Bid run recently, which was just an amazing experience. I really had a lot of fun editing that down and kind of role-playing a bit differently than I've ever played that game before, even though I played it really a lot and even watched other people play it. There were some stuff that we did I'd never seen before, which was really fun for me. So I'm really grateful that I had some support for that. And like I said, if you're watching this and you're like, well, I'm not a patron, that's the thing. Every year we do a kind of a Patroncast for the whole channel where everyone gets to watch it. Normally it's just audio based because it's really easy for me to put that together regularly. And we usually just kind of go over what's going on in the channel, some of the decisions and things I'm thinking about. So now we're kind of cultivating some of the most recent Patroncasts and some of the ideas I've been tossing around. Now we're going to be seeing the fruition of a lot of that in what we're going to be doing in the poll. So we're going to focus on that first of all, and then I'm going to kind of give a summary of how I think the channel's doing, any big events that have been going on in my life that are worth sharing, and then ultimately what am I hoping to see in the coming year. So if there's anything you're going to skip over the ending stuff, because that's going to be fluffy and fun and more about me just sharing my appreciation for each of you and what we've been able to observe and do this year. But this first part, I really want you to focus and focus. Specifically, there'll be links at the top of the description. You probably can see them if you're watching this not in full screen view. And there are 2 straw poll links. These are the links that I'm going to be asking questions for what we're going to cover primarily on Tuesday and Wednesday in this coming year. Now, the series I do, whether visual novel or no, tend to take a while because the story-driven games tend to not be very short, and that's awesome. That's one of the things that I think I can add, I offer that a lot of other channels don't really get to do. Especially because if you get caught up in chasing algorithms, you find that it's tough to kind of do full playthroughs, especially ones where the focus is on the story, the writing, and the world building rather than entertainment, which, I mean, granted, a good example of somebody who does a really good job of long plays is RT Game. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he does a great job doing full playthroughs, but he also is so much focused on his making funny content and engaging content, which is part of why he's so successful. I feel like he sometimes kind of glosses over a lot of story elements or misses a lot of things because there's his attention's always on the joke, it feels which is fine. That's wonderful content. Like I said, I watch him all the time, but that's not the content I focus on. I have my own style, and my own style tends to be very immersive and very much involved in the characters. You were never going to see RT cry in Persona, but I did. That's because I get too caught up in it and I take it all too seriously. He knows how to take a joke. He knows how to spin it. Anyway, enough comparing. I'm not comparing. I'm just kind of sharing my thoughts on that recently. But regardless of that, whilst we have some openings coming up, there are some that are spoken for. Mondays, for instance, have been Muv-Luv Mondays for a long time, and they keep giving me more stuff to play. And even when that's done, we've already committed to starting the Higurashi and Umineko series like after that. So Mondays are pretty much stacked for like at least a couple years. Like we're going to be doing that forever now, which is fine. Where are you going? Like I said, she likes to go move around. She's just on exploring. I don't want her to get too far away because if she gets caught up in the wires on the computer, it actually is kind of difficult to extradite her. But she's a very active, very social snake. She's very interested in like exploring the world and seeing what's out there. So she's really fun to get out and like bring out to like for other people to hold and interact with. Maya is a lot more reserved. She tends to be very clingy. And while she's not bad about bringing out or being interacting, she's not like Chloe, where Chloe's like out and about. Like she's like, I want to like see everything there is out here, and I want to like explore every nook and cranny. Maya's more like, I want to stay really close to you and like never let you go. It's very, very sweet. Anyway, so Mondays spoken for. Fridays are reserved for patrons, and they also tend to be focused on games that are either like gifted to me by developers or are games that I think that look interesting but are like smaller and not quite as mainstream, like stuff you won't find on IMDb, VNDB, like on the high rate charts, because there's a lot of great games out there. One of the best examples of that is Seabed. Seabed was probably one of the best visual novels I've ever read, and that was a Friday slot that was gifted to me that I probably never even would have looked at. And yet it's become one of the most important stories in my life. And so like I always want to make sure we have a spot on the channel where we kind of try and target smaller content. And if you recall, like one of the things we did recently on my Friday slot was like Riddle Joker, which, you know, the downside to that one was like I didn't realize that was such a big like production company. And the big reason for that is like they probably gave me a key to that game for free and contacted me because Riddle Joker out of Ubisoft out of their games is not one of the most successful. Like it just didn't get as much attention. So I think they were like wanting to like help spread the word about it and get it out there more when they sent it to me. But I didn't realize that. So I just kind of had it on my list of like potential games for Friday. So that was an anomaly, but that just happens because I'm really good at keeping myself out of spoiler zone. So I kind of go into things so blind, I have no idea. Anyway, Fridays are reserved. Patrons, you all, of course, will get to vote when we finish. We're going to probably be finishing Love Esquire pretty soon. Like, I think it's probably only got 3 or 4 more weeks left in it based on how quickly the pace is picking up and how, like, used to the game I've gotten. And so patrons will be doing a vote fairly soon just for, like, what the next Friday game is. But that leaves 2 days because we just started Trails in the Sky, so that's going to be a while. I would be shocked if we are done with Trails in the Sky. It's another one I'm expecting to last for several years because not only is like the one game we just started easily like over 50 hours worth of content, which, you know, that's what Persona 5 is, and we got like 65 episodes of that. It also it's part of a greater series, and like based on like how good I'm enjoying things so far, and it's only just the beginning. We haven't even like sunk our teeth into anything yet. There's a good chance I'm going to want to just keep following with them with like the other games. And so like I think Thursday is going to become the new Muv-Luv Monday. It's going to be Trails Thursday. It's just going to be a nightmare. No, it might sound better if I were to do Trails Tuesday, but it's on Thursday. That's where it's going to be. So what we're going to be voting for the next coming up games are going to be the Tuesday slot and the Wednesday slot. The Tuesday slot will be going down immediately because I'm just kind of waiting. I'm waiting for what you guys decide, and then whatever this vote ends up doing, I'm starting that next week. So the first week of 2023, we're jumping right into whatever the result is from the poll for the Tuesday slot. And then the Wednesday slot, like we did just like start Rewrite, really. Like there's a lot more to it that we've just barely scratched the surface of it so far. So we'll have to wait and see. It's a good chance that if Rewrite Plus takes long enough, like it could end up getting pushed back. Like we might still be doing whatever we vote for on this poll by the time we have our next voting session at the end of 2023. So that's an important vote as well, but one you might not see for a while just because Rewrite was what we voted on last year and we just got to it. So like, you know, it's the nature of these things with such big storylines, like it takes forever to get to, and that can be a problem for like keeping consistent and changing. But at the same time, like you look at all the good stuff we've been able to cover so far. Like it feels like I've been doing this forever, but at the same time, we've got quite a backlog. Like, there's a lot of good videos, and I still have yet to even get to half the games I want to play. So speaking of wanting to play, wow, I've rambled about this intro a long time. You know me, I don't shut up. So, what are we voting on? Okay, well, I've narrowed down the list, and I had a little help from my patrons, so we've got our selections here. First, we'll talk about Tuesday. Tuesday, again, is part of slotted for the not visual novel heavy story-based games, and we have 3 contenders. One of them is returning because I really want to cover it at some point on the channel. That's the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Mass Effect Legendary Edition consists of the 3 Mass Effect core games, all put together with all the DLC. Now, the nice thing is I played those games, I know them really well, so I'd like to try and do something similar to the Killy the Bid, where I kind of like go for a build of some kind, though I'm not sure what I would do yet. I'd have to think about it, like seriously, which I'm not going to put too much thought into it until we like are ready to put it on the channel, just because I could change my mind. One of the reasons why it might be good to put it on the channel is because we know that the 4th title of the game series is in production, and like they keep dropping like trailers and stuff. So like they might come out sooner than we think, and it might be fun to cover it when it comes out, since it's going to be not the Andromeda garbage fire, but like a continuation supposedly of the post Mass Effect 3 universe. But yeah, so like one of the things about it, so again, like I might want to do some kind of playthrough, but like I can't imagine that game being fun, trying to do something like an old melee build or something. Like I might do something more simple. Like for instance, I've usually played Paragon, so maybe I'll do an all Renegade run, or maybe I'll try and do a neutral run. Of course, there's some sacrifices we'd have to make if I do a neutral run, but yeah, we'll figure that out. Anyway, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, that's not choice number 1. Choice number 2 is a highly requested Disco Elysium. This game has not only been recommended by people on the channel, but I have close personal friends who have said, dude, you need to play this game. So I've reserved it because I think it might be good for the channel. Now, it's kind of isometric type of game. If you ever played the Shadowrun games, it's kind of like that. Maybe something also kind of akin to like the Divinity games or like Baldur's Gate 3, but I also don't think it's quite as fluid as that. It seems a lot more text-based, and like I said, I think the closest comparison based on the screenshots I've seen, that I tried to, not hit any spoilers obviously, but based on the screenshots I've seen, it looks more like a Shadowrun game. So if you've ever played the Shadowrun games that are on Steam, it's probably a lot like that. Anyway, apparently highly addictive, very, very good characterization and writing. Apparently it's like kind of a cornerstone for a lot of people on how to write characters and do character development. So it would be really fun to do an analysis of it and see what it's like. And then finally, someday it's gonna happen, so we'll see if it happens now or not. Yakuza, specifically Yakuza 0. I know someday I'm gonna play Yakuza on the channel. I really want to. I know a lot of people have had a lot of fun playing the Yakuza games, like on streams or long plays, and frankly, everything I have seen of the games looks fantastic. It's like a good blend of crime drama and like GTA style, like crime stories, but then with like really goofy, hilarious side quests, like that are just like ridiculous in all the ways that only Japan can really pull off. And so, yeah, like I know I want to cover Yakuza at some point, so maybe it's time to start that. So those are the 3 choices: Mass Effect Legendary playthrough, Disco Elysium playthrough, or the start of our Yakuza journey. Now, because I'm already doing some large daisy chain-like games on Mondays and Thursdays, I might elect, if I do Yakuza 0, to do something between Yakuza 0 and the next Yakuza game, like just keeping things a bit broken up. I don't want to do too much serialization on the channel, but games like the Trails series might have to be serialized, or else we would just forget everything between the games with how long it takes to go through. So anyway, those are the choices I want you guys to pick through. So good luck and let me know. You can go to, it's a straw poll, like strawpoll.com, and you can actually find it really easy if you can't see the link or you have trouble with the link. It's just strawpoll.com/TheBlueShifting1, like number 1, not typed out like the number. That will take you straight to the poll, and you can just go and you can vote, and yeah, just like cast your votes and let me know what you think and what you want to say. You can also leave a comment. You should be able to, at least. I don't know if that'll sway me or anything, but keep in mind, if we do have a tie, I am the tiebreaker. So if you really want to make an argument that doesn't have a spoiler in it, like I'd either do it there or just in the comment of this video. Just get your voice heard. I'll pay attention to it, I promise. Now for the Wednesday, this is the VN slot, so this one's going to be a hot topic, I think. And my gosh, these are spicy choices. I'm at war with myself trying to pick between these three. I don't even want to know what it's going to do to you guys. Just be nice, but understand, like I want to play all of these eventually. So this is more about a matter of priorities. I haven't forgotten any requests you guys make, but like I make these cultivated like lists based on like stuff I'm like immediately like, I wish I want to play this right now. So like while there were stuff on last polls that might not be on this list, like those are still high on my priority list, but these kind of just won out in the end. So what are the three choices for the second straw poll? First is, which of the Holy Knights, on the Holy Knight, sorry, not of. So this one is like the first real translated and distributed overseas Nasuverse series. It's one of the earlier works in the Nasu galaxy, like the Fate series and all that stuff. They all share like a kind of a common universe with common rules and general like world building. Like you can have different dimensional versions of the Nasuverse per se, but at the same time, like there's still a lot of like parallel world building philosophies that you'll see. And this one follows like in those philosophies, and I believe it has a lot to do with like specifically just magic and sorcery in general. Nothing like, not like with a Holy Grail War or anything like that, but takes place in like the same universe as one. Now, this is really impactful because it's one of the first officially translated series that the Nasu like group has done. Like besides Fate Grand Order, like the app, they've had kind of a stranglehold on the series, and I've been this close to just illegally playing like the Fate game because I really want to play it, and I'm tired of waiting. But this might be a way to kind of help send that signal that we are ready, that these translations are worthwhile, and not just in like sales that they make, which I know they've made a pretty significant amount over here, but I'd also like them to see that there's a lot of interest online with it. So it'd be really fun to play that series. And I know literally nothing about the series other than the fact that it's part of the Nasuverse, but my goodness, I'm excited, and the art looks fantastic. It looks like a beautiful game and a really fun one to explore. Now, what could possibly contend with that? What could possibly like make that seem less appealing? Well, it's the next choice. Chaos Head, Chaos Child. They just released both. You can get them in a double pack on Steam. And whilst I've had some real drama with Spike Chunsoft, they threatened to take down like all my Steins Gate content. Not just like they've taken the revenue from it, but they were threatening to like remove it and potentially remove my channel from like YouTube. That spooked me. That made me want to back off and just kind of give them some space. And since then, I feel like I've seen other people being able to release content from them, and it's not been too bad. So I'm willing to give it another try. Now, granted, this comes with a caveat. If they message me when I start posting it and tell me to like stop, I don't know if I can risk it. So it could be a dead on arrival type series. But like, we got to try, right? I mean, Steins Gate was amazing. I want to play more of the games that were made and share a similar universe with them. So, you know, if this wins out, we're going to try it, and I'm going to go for it. Now that I also feel a lot better knowing that I can play both Chaos Head and Chaos Child, because it used to be just Chaos Child, which is like, it's fine, but like, you really should play both. Now we can. So like, of course I want to do that. Oh, that tickles Chloe. She's exploring around my ear, and it's like, she flicks out her tongue, and it like tickles. It's really cute. They're so loving and so cuddly. Like, there's no discomfort. You can tell from my talking. Like, she wraps around my neck. It's more about stability. She's not like constricting me in any way. And trust me, there's a massive difference. You might feel like a tightness when you hold a snake. That's just them trying to make sure they don't slip and fall, because they have to build up like traction with their scales on you, so it can feel a little tight. But having fed them and see what it looks like when they actually eat, there's nothing there. She's being extraordinarily gentle with me. And like, because what they could do, like, she couldn't like hurt me, but she could make my life real uncomfortable. If she were stressed and uncomfortable, she could really let me know. And she's not. She's gorgeous and she's lovely. I love snakes. They're so cute. They're so fun. Anyway, that just went off on that tangent. So Chaos Head, Chaos Child. Now, what could possibly go up with these two? It's an interesting choice, but one that's come out. And now, interestingly, there was a strong push for it like not too long ago, like I think like last month. And when I was looking into it to kind of see more about it, not only did the basic surface level content I had looked at to kind of understand the game and where I could download it, for instance, like did it catch my eye, but I also realized it's also one of the most like one of the first visual novels that was recommended to me on the channel way back when I started. it was something that people were saying that they wanted me to showcase. Like, I think shortly after it came out, like people were recommending it to me. So whilst like it might not seem like the highest like title recognition based on the other two, keep in mind it's like right up my alley a bit, I guess, with like the type of mystery and characterization like that you get in the game. Like it's like something that I think really fits what we intend to enjoy and explore on the channel. So I do think it's a strong contender, and I do genuinely think that I'm torn between these three. I really don't know which one I would prefer to play first. Like I know I want to play all three of them, but I don't know which one would win out if I were left to make the decision myself. So I'm really excited to see what you all think. And then you can let me know what you're most excited to see, and that can help me, you know, push me over the edge for like the choice. But if I were left to my own devices for even just two of these, it's going to be tough. So I really want to make sure you get your voices heard for that. So thank you so much. Again, the second poll for Wednesday you can find in the link. It's strawpoll.com, TheBlueShifting 2. So 1, 2, and then you're done. It's really easy, nothing too hard, and I even have like art in there, so like it's not just like you have to click on the name, you also can see the artwork so you can know exactly what you're clicking on. It's really easy. But yeah, that's the big thing. So go down, click that. Heck, do it now. Come back to the video if you want to, but click on it now and just get it over with, and then come back and we'll talk a little bit more. Chloe, you doing okay? She's been really good. She's been just snooping around. But snakes are really cute because they do their tongue flicks, like they taste the air, and it helps them like identify like what's around them, because they don't have the best eyesight. But what they do have is like it's hard, might not be able to see. Let me see if I can get her close enough for you to see. On the tip of her nose, as she looks up, come on, Chloe, don't do it. No, she doesn't want to show you. She has little vents on the front of her snoot, her little nose. They're common for constrictor types, but not for most snakes. But what they are is they're actually infrared sensors. I wouldn't call them eyes. Like snakes don't see in infrared. Like sometimes in videos, like on TV, they try and show you like through the snake's eyes. Like they show infrared. That's not how a snake sees infrared at all. They have eyes and they see like normal through the eyes, but their infrared sensors are kind of like an on-off switch. Essentially, they can detect if something of temperature is in front of them, and they get a general sense of the temperature. And what it helps them to do is identify out of anything that's in their immediate like vicinity, is there anything that's at the proper heat of a small mammal. So if their eyes say that the object is small enough and the temperature says that it's warm enough, they identify it as food, and they know to go for it and to strike it. But it can't just be that, it also has to be sense of smell. Now, where their eyesight's kind of meh, and where their sensors are fairly basic, their smell with the tongue flicking is incredible. They can detect a change in like air pressure and like surrounding area easily of like dozens of feet around them. And for smells that they are like attuned to find, like smell of food, they can detect food hundreds of feet away and like get a general direction for it. It's very impressive. For instance, like when I'm preparing food for her, like I'll be in a completely different room behind a couple closed doors, and she'll start responding already. And then when I get into the room, I will purposely waft like the smell of her food in the air to get her ready to eat, which is a really good way to help train her to know the difference between like me reaching in with my warm hand to hold her, or the food coming in that's also about the same temperature and time for her to eat. Is that smell difference. And it's a good way to train her because, like, for a good example, she's never struck at me. Like, ball pythons are very docile. They tend to not be aggressive in any way, shape, or form. But the most aggressive they can be is that they confuse you with food. Like, when they're hungry and they think it's feeding time, they might strike at you because, again, their eyesight's not great, and they see heat. So if they see a hand, which matches the criteria of being small enough to be considered food, warm enough to be considered food, and might smell like food, they might strike at it out of pure instinct alone. But to help train her between the difference, I make sure that when it is time to feed, I fill the room with the sense of the food and help them know that it's coming. And they get really excited and very engaged, and they're ready to look for it and to strike. And it's very beautiful and wonderful just to have them in my life. They're wonderful pets. I'm very lucky and very happy to have a few snakes because they really help. And holding them genuinely gives me a lot of joy in my life. So It's been like they're the best pets I've ever had. I haven't had a ton of pets. I had a dad who was pretty allergic to a lot of pets, and so I've taken care of cats and dogs. I've had a cat. I've had a fish. I've helped take care of tarantulas and turtles and everything. And out of all of them, the snakes have been by far the best pets. Like, they're quiet, they're easy to take care of. They're really fun to engage with. They're social. But they also like don't leave messes. And the messes they do leave are really manageable. Anyway, she's getting a little like tired. I can kind of tell because she keeps trying to find like dark places to hide. So I'm going to go put her away real quick and we'll continue our discussion. So like, you won't see me gone, but I'll be right back. Say goodbye. Let's see if she'll say to this camera. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right, I'll be right back. Anyway, we're back. Oh, my microphone's a little bumped. All right, so thank you so much for your participation in those polls. Now I'll just talk about a little bit about the past, a little bit about the future. The one thing that's fun about the channel is I've never seen explosive growth. Not yet, anyway. I'd like to hope someday it would, because like it's always fun to see that happen. Recently, one of the channels I've become good friends with, Ren from Hallowed Be Thy Game. We did a collab with Muv-Love relatively recently, where like he was doing kind of like an analysis of it, and he invited me to help him with it. It was really fun. I hope you got a chance to check it out. I'm actually hoping we can do some more collabs this year. I kind of pitched some ideas to him, and he seems definitely interested. So he's also asked me about how to get into more of the Muv-Love universe, like more games to cover so that he can like talk about them. And so I'll likely get brought in to help him with that as well. So a lot of good content coming up there, but he also hit his stride. Like, he had an explosive year, like especially towards the end of the year. He's grown massively, and it's been really fun to see. I'm really, really happy for him. And I always hope that that'll happen to me, but at the same time, I really can't like I don't want to ever come across as complaining. The best thing about a channel is you want to see growth. You want to see yourself moving in the good direction, and you want it to see like progress, not regression. And that's definitely what we've seen this year. We've seen very, very consistent growth. Growth I would have died for when I first started the channel, and I'm really grateful for that. It just means that we're getting out there, we're finding more people who are interested in this kind of content, we're opening up new discussions. One of my favorite things is getting comments from people who are like binge watching through the old content and just like, wow, like I think these are really cool comments, here's some thoughts, and like I still get to see those and I get to talk to them about it, which is really fun. Sometimes though, they'll like make a reference to something I've said that I like, it's been a while and I'm like, I don't know, I have to go rewatch that part. So when you make comments on old videos, putting a timestamp can really help if you want me to have like a response, just because it's hard for me to know where in the video you're talking about at this point. Like when it was recently uploaded, yeah, I could usually remember exactly what you're meaning, but it's been years for some of that. It's also fun to see people who comment on my weight loss. You know, the weight journey I've gone on is pretty apparent if you go and compare just a few years ago. And so that's always a fun surprise to be able to have people express. So that's been really, really cool. But ultimately, it just means that we're growing, and that's wonderful. I love being able to see that the channel is continuing to be active. I love hearing your thoughts in the Discord. I understand it's also like, it's tough. Like there's 100 different Discords out there. There's 100 different like other channels to interact with. So like, I also am not expecting like, all this tons of interaction and whatnot, but every time I see it, it makes my day, and I appreciate it. So as far as the channel goes, like I'm really grateful. Like I can't have anything but happiness, and like at this rate, like we just keep seeing an increase in the average of like viewers that we find, and new viewers that we find, and new subscribers that we get. And that essentially tells me that regardless of what anyone else would say looking at my channel, that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm making content that not only am I really proud to make, but that I'm making content that people are finding engaging enough that they want to keep engaging with it. And that's really the only thing I can use to gauge success. That's why like hearing comments, seeing likes, like that really helps me, because it's not just like a self-fulfillment or like a self-enriching, like, oh, that makes me feel good. It's more of like, it helps me know when I'm doing something right. Not all my series are successful, but the thing is like, I don't really care, because I typically make these series for me, and I share them in the hopes that I'll find others who find them interesting too. I've never really done a series that I just felt was so terrible I didn't want to continue. If I did, I stopped it. But I've also just gotten really good at like picking things out that I know I will enjoy versus things I won't enjoy. So like, it's just never really been that big of an issue. And I'm really grateful for that. It also helps that there's just so much content out there, which is another thing I'm hoping to see. Like, I love being able to feel like we can support smaller creators and writers. I mentioned to my patrons, and like I've kind of tossed it out a bit. I'd love to make my own visual novel. I've got a couple ideas, and I've started trying to write a visual novel. But because I've only had experience writing personal novels, so not only have I never gotten published, but I've also only written pure novels. So the first draft I gave out to the patrons saying like, here, what do you guys think? They had a lot of good feedback, but one of the like more common like constructive criticisms was like, it doesn't read like a visual novel. It reads like a novel. And like, writing it for a visual novel, it really is different. Like, the problem is I keep trying to describe how like how things feel and how things look in my head. But the thing is that when you have a novel where the music and the visuals kind of can account for that, you don't need to focus on that. You can focus purely on dialogue and character thoughts. And that's really interesting because I've never had to write that way before, and I'm learning a lot. So I haven't given an update on that yet because I keep rewriting that first scene because I kind of want to get it closer to what I really need it to be for a visual novel. But having that feedback alone helps inspiring me that like, yeah, maybe I can really do this. Maybe this is something we can really see. And maybe someday I'll be able to be a part of a team that gets a story out there, and that's something that we can share together. Like, that would be really cool. And I've got some ideas that I think are pretty good. Like, I definitely know I'm not one of the greatest writers, but I think I've got enough to offer that like I'm willing to give it a shot. So thank you for the support of those who were able to see that. I appreciate it. And I'm also just grateful that you inspire me by even just being here and watching these videos. You inspire me to create, to want to be more, to do more, to have more to offer. And so I really appreciate that. Like, even if you feel like you aren't like a very active member of the community, you're active enough if you're watching this. So thank you. All right. So as far as the channel history goes, like, that's the thing. Like, we didn't have a total ton of drama. What I did have was personal life drama. I think I mentioned this a bit before, but I kind of want to give it a brief update. So I've officially been diagnosed with something called long COVID. Essentially what it is that when COVID came through my house, I thankfully had gotten all the boosters. And so for me, even though I have a high risk tendency because I've got asthma, this like it kind of felt like bronchitis, which I've had before, which isn't fun. But the nice thing about it is that it was like bronchitis that lasted like a week rather than the first time I had bronchitis when it lasted like a month. So while it was very unpleasant, I think the edge was taken off because of those vaccines, which is really great. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. They don't just make it so you don't get sick. They make it so that when you do get sick, the symptoms are like dulled. So what might have sent me to the hospital only kept me home in bed for a few days. But when all the other symptoms left, there was one that stuck around, and that was fatigue. Normally when you're sick, fatigue makes sense, right? You feel awful and all you want to do is stay in bed. But now imagine that feeling of like having no energy and wanting to stay in bed stuck around. And that's essentially what's been going on. Now, I caught COVID at the end of May, early June. Like, it was kind of like at the end of that month. And ever since then, I have needed a lot more sleep to be functional. It sounds kind of on the surface like, oh, that doesn't sound too bad. But then you think about how that can affect and interfere with your life, and unfortunately, it's really, really crappy. I did the math with my brother recently because he was asking me how I was doing and if I'd improved because I'd visited him recently, and he noticed that I slept a lot. And on a good day, like an average day, I tend to sleep from like midnight because I tend to do my recordings at night. That's like the early evening is when I have the most energy. So I tend to record all the stuff, do my chores around the house, like do everything I can from the hours of like 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Like, that's when I feel like the most active, is that like 6-hour window. And then I go to bed around midnight and I sleep until about 7, and I get everything done for the morning, like get breakfast, get stuff taken care of, do whatever I have to do. But then usually around 9, I end up crashing again. So I sleep from midnight to 7, so that's 7 hours of sleep. And then I typically sleep from about 9:30 to about 3:30. And like, that's not like intermittent. That's not like I take a nap somewhere in there. I usually fall asleep at 9:30 and then wake up at 3:30. So like, what is that? 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. So that's another 6 hours. So right there, 12, 13 hours of sleep a day. That's typical. And sometimes I still end up having like an hour or two nap from between 3 and 6 o'clock. Like, if I can manage it, I usually try to. And that's the thing, like, that's a normal day for me. That's me doing like very normal, everyday, low impact things. If I do something that's physically exerting, like going to work, or like walking around in a mall, or a shopping trip that takes a lot of like back and forth trips and like involves more than like a few items, I feel bedraggled. I get worn down and I find myself sleeping. And the worst thing is, like, it's not just like, oh, like you can muscle through it. These things come across like sleep attacks. I've had times where I've fallen asleep unwillingly while I was cooking. And so I severely burned a pizza. I also boiled all the water out of a pan because, again, I had like a sleep attack, I call them, where I'll be sitting down, not even in like a resting position, and the next thing you know, I'm waking up because I'd fallen asleep sitting up. And if I push myself, I can maybe get myself out there and do something a lot more physically active for an extended period of time, but then, I pay for it. But the next few days, like, I'm lucky if I function at all. Like, it's just so bad. And it's like, I'll pay for it for days afterwards because it feels like just to have one active day, I have to play catch up for the next 3. And like, one of the other options, and one of the things I asked my doctors about, because like we did testing for months to like pretty much try and rule out anything else it could have been, like a thyroid condition, some kind of imbalance of chemicals, some type of depression, even like some kind of cardiovascular issue. Like, we did like CT scans on my heart, and we like did lung tests and everything, and it all came up normal. Nothing of concern at all. And so, like, that's kind of what the ultimate conclusion had to be, since these symptoms started when I caught COVID and they just never went away. Long COVID is the example. And the sad thing is that there are people in the program I'm in. So now I'm getting close to approaching the year mark for this long COVID, and it's been terrible this entire time. But when I got in the program back in like June, when I got officially like diagnosed with long COVID, there were people who had been a part of the program for over a year already and were still experiencing fatigue. So we don't know how long this is going to be. I do studies with a group out of a university in New York City now. They send me questionnaires that I fill out about once a month, where I just kind of give them updates on like my symptoms and like everything that's going on. And they get back to me, and I might get called in for a study to do experimental treatments, like where they find a new drug, and like after going through the various like non-human testing methods, like they pull a few of us to go do clinical trials and see if there's something that can work. And then if I don't get pulled, I just kind of stay part of this control group where we're just still experiencing it, and so we compare everything we feel with what they feel. And we just gotta hope that, like, either it seems like some people just kind of work through it and eventually it goes away, or we find a treatment. And now you might ask yourself, Blue, why don't you just take caffeine? Well, remember how I said that, like, if I expend a lot of energy, I pay a heavy price? Stimulants are even worse. I could pop a caffeine pill and it'll perk me right up and I could go crazy with it, right? But you'll always crash from stuff like that. Any stimulant eventually wears off. And when it wears off, it can be sudden and intense. They have accounts of people falling asleep at the wheel. They have accounts of people going into like semi-coherent, like almost you could call them like sleep comas, where they are very difficult to wake and they don't stay awake for very long. There's a lot of fear that there could be some severe traumatic issues that could happen, let alone, like I said, like in daily life, like what if you had a severe sleep at like a narcolepsy, it's almost like a narcolepsy, and what if you had an attack while going down the stairs, driving your car, walking across the street, and you just suddenly pass out essentially. Like that's such a high risk for people with chronic fatigue of any kind that they just pretty much tell me, no, like you need to stay away from stimulants at all costs. Like the kickback is just too severe and too unpredictable. So yeah, that's where I am. Now, thankfully, I've been able to keep up the channel because I can record and adapt my recording schedule usually to my fatigue schedule. And I've been able to manage it pretty well because I'm a planner. I'm a habitual planner. I'm the kind of person who like meticulously goes through my day and like tries to account for things. And so I will plan naps through the day if I know I have a recording session, especially if it's a longer recording session. If I happen to have more energy and more time at a certain time, I'll take advantage of that and I'll just record. So there have been a few weeks where you might be like, it looks like he's wearing the same clothes for like 4 recordings. That's because I had a space of time where I had enough energy and had the space like from like other people in the house to just record. And I was just like, I got to take advantage of this so I don't burn out and not have a recording for Thursday or Friday. So I just record everything while I've got that energy. And like, that's not me being lazy or like just not changing my clothes. That's me taking advantage of like what time I've got and doing the best I can. So, and unfortunately, like while it's been working, it's been tough. And so it's been a source of a lot of frustration for me. Thankfully, YouTube is a source of release. And so it's a good place for me to go when I'm feeling this stressed and overwhelmed, but it's just the way it is. So yeah. If there's weird inconsistencies you're observing, that's probably a big part of it. And hopefully we find a solution, but so far, no luck. It keeps going. I'm even getting tired right now. I'm going to have to stop this recording here soon. Otherwise, I'm going to be a blubbering idiot. Yeah, so that's the past year. Been kind of rough, but I feel like we've all had it kind of rough. Now for the future. What do I want to see in this next year? Well, like I said, I want to keep this 5 video schedule going. I feel like it's been a good balance of like keeping me busy enough, but not overwhelming me. I want to do more collabs this year if I can pull it off. The trouble is getting people who can commit, but I've even got some personal friends who have expressed interest in doing some kind of collab work on the channel. So we might try and start doing occasional Saturday bonus videos. Like, I don't think it'd be a consistent thing like every Saturday. It would be like whenever I can squeeze it in, I might do a special Saturday release where like I'll do a kind of a compilation or like a highlight video of like gameplay with me and my friends, like something like that. I also think that there's like, I can't go into details because it involves a close friend of mine, but I might be wanting to do a fundraiser here very soon. I've got a friend who's facing a very difficult family situation and their financial like situation just isn't great. My wife and I have already kind of agreed that we want to like help them, but with something this crazy going on, and like I said, like if I do this, you'll get enough details to understand, and I don't think it'll surprise you at all that like I want to help them as much as I can because the situation they're in is pretty like horrific, and I want to do something to help. And I think part of helping people when you have a platform is sharing and kind of seeing if there's anyone else who would also like to help. You know, I wouldn't be expecting any of you to have to help, but when I do stuff like that, the best thing you could ever do is just be there, support it, by like sharing a view, giving a share, like helping get the word out. Because sometimes, like if you're like me, it's not that you don't want to help people. It's like you might not help people because you want to make sure you put money towards something good, something like tangibly good. And this is definitely one of those types of things. So I'd want to make sure if we do it right. And if we do it, it'll be something that you understand. There'd be a lot of clarity. And like, I just want it to be something we can share because it means a lot to me. But again, like it's mostly just be an excuse for me to spend some time with friends and try and like come together to help a friend out who's in need, and just share that because I think we can make some good memories by like just coming together. Even if like I didn't get a single penny from anybody else but myself, that would be perfectly fine with that. That's the way those things go. And so like if I ever do a charity thing, don't ever feel like you have to. Like take care of yourself first. But if you've ever feel like you want to support something, you know, give it a consider. Anyway, enough about that. Anything else I want to see this year besides collabs and stuff like that? Because that's like that specific fundraiser would be near future. Long term, I want to continue to improve my editing. I wish I were really skilled. I wish I could hire an editor. That's something I wouldn't be able to do until I like step into like actual full time. I do have more resources thanks to the patrons and also just the steady growth of the channel. I tend to use those now to support artists. As you notice, I get a lot more custom artwork done. You can pretty much see an association between like success and growth of the channel and patron amounts versus it's followed exactly with the scale of like artists whose work are incorporated into the channel. It's not a coincidence. That's pretty much like I would feel guilty if I did anything but funnel anything I get from the channel back into the channel. That's the best thing I can do for it and try and like improve things as best I can. So yeah, I want to like keep seeing the channel grow, and I want to keep making content that's worthwhile. I want to continue to see that I can make something that's impactful and like different. There's a lot of good games coming out this year. I've been really enjoying Pokemon Scarlet just on my free time. I'm kind of becoming a breeding maniac where I'm kind of shiny breeding. It feels kind of weird at the same time. Like I love it. I'm just having a blast with it, and just like it's so nice to see such a fresh take on a core game. Like it has its flaws for sure, but my goodness, does it actually feel like engaging again? And like Sword and Shield felt like a pandering game. Like I felt very like, nah. This game, it feels like it actually encourages me to like do things my own way and to play the game how I see fit. And it was such a fun experience. And I'm still enjoying it. I haven't actually beaten it yet because I'm savoring it. I'm taking my time and cultivating a dream team, and then I'm going to go into the end game with it. So I'm just really excited about that. I'm really excited for Armored Core 6. Like one of my favorite games of all time was Armored Core 4. It was seriously like one of the best games I've ever played, and I still fondly think about it. And it's funny because a few months ago I was even like having like a gushing call where I was talking about just how amazing Armored Core 4 was and how much I wanted to play more Armored Core. And so when they announced with a trailer saying that this year FromSoft is releasing Armored Core 6, I'm so stoked. I don't know if I'll do a series on it. I just don't know if that would be a fit for the channel. Maybe it will. It tends to have a story mode, but it tends to be very like ephemeral, like in the background. So I don't know what to expect. But I do think I'll at least do a showcase where I'll make like I'll showcase like a mech build that I'm using. Maybe we'll even like, cause like traditionally they had multiplayer games. So maybe we can try and have like a channel host night where I can like host some of you guys, and we could have like a few mech matches, and then I could cut it into a video. That'd be really fun, especially for a community. Like maybe that's another thing I'm hoping to do more. I'd love to be able to do community nights, where through the Discord, maybe we put together an impromptu game night and just goof around in something. I don't know. We'll have to see. We have to just see, first of all, like if that's even feasible for a lot of us and everything. But regardless of that, like I do think it'd be fun to be able to do more like that in the future this year. So finally, having said all of this, what do you hope to see this year on the channel? Like what could I do to make things better? I've been working hard on trying to, like I've recently did a little like study course on audio engineering, and I think I've got a better equalizer setup. So I think my audio is crisper, and I think it's just better balanced. I haven't heard anybody say anything, so I'm guessing it's fine, but like I want to continue to improve my craft. A lot of the improvements I make are going to be really subtle. I don't know if there'll be something you'd notice unless you're looking for it, but I'd like to continue to do that. So if you have recommendations on things I can do to make the content more engaging, or improve my editing, or the way I talk about things, like I'd love to know it. I'm really grateful for the constructive criticism you've given me. Usually it ends up being how I pronounce things, because I'm just terrible at that, but I do appreciate it all the same. I'd love to know if there's any other feedback you'd want to give me, or any questions that you have that I can answer directly. I might be able to do a follow-up if it's important enough, or I'll just throw it into a video when I next get the chance. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this public Patroncast. Thank you especially to the patrons for sharing this special time I normally reserve just for you with the rest of the channel. Help give some love to the patrons. Like, again, they help make it so I can make custom art. They make it so I can make the channel better. It helps me find the time to be able to make more content and to have kind of a sure footing to try and improve my craft. So thank you so much for each and every one of you. And for anyone who's not a patron, like, you're still 110% a part of this team. You're still a lab mem. You're still a vital part of the channel. Like, I don't ever want you to feel alienated for being if for not being a patron supporter. Like, watching content is more than enough. Like, I think a good Mini Truner had a great stance on it. He said that, like, he doesn't need patrons. The patrons are a way for people to show appreciation and to want to directly support the channel. And more importantly, it's a great way to continue to support a YouTuber whom you use ad blocker on. Because frankly, if you use ad blocker, I don't see any revenue at all from your viewership. So like, even like a 1 month, $1 donation could easily offset that for like years. So it's a great option for that if you want to take that approach to it. But even then, like, I frankly don't care. Like, I'm just happy you're around. I like having the ads. It continues to make it so that I get the resources to support the channel. But I'm just happy to have you here. I could care less, really. No matter how successful I get, like, I have to kind of view this as a business and try and make business decisions. But at the same time, it's about passion. It's about something we share. And so you should never feel pressured. I want you to just know that you're part of this community, and I want you to always feel like you're a part of this community, which is why I do these polls publicly and why I'm excited to see what the results are. So thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great rest of your year. I hope that if you celebrated a holiday, that you had a great holiday, and I hope we all can look forward to a new year with bright eyes and smiles and try and make it a better 2023 than we had of a 2022. Thank you so much for everything you do. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for spending time with me and my snake, and I hope you have a great day. Until the next video, watching me or pursuing me next. I'll see you there.